Hello and welcome to our weekly Bible study, continuing in Ecclesiastes. Title of our lesson this week is Don't Fret. Looking at Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verses 15 through 18. Ecclesiastes 7, verses 15 through 18. If you want to go ahead and pause the video and read through those verses, we'll jump right in. Okay, ready? Interesting passage, one that's, I think, a challenge to interpret and a good one to wrestle with. I'm going to give you a few brief thoughts and curious to see what your thoughts on it. I have some discussion questions in the description as well. First of all, we see here in the verses that we read that there are two ways to live. You'll notice that the preacher presents as a contrast those who live righteously and wisely with those who choose being wicked and foolish. So those are two ways to live, being righteous and wise or being wicked and foolish. You'll notice righteous or just in verse number 15, righteous in verse number 16, wise in 16 there together. And then we see wickedness and foolish in verse number 17 and in verse 15 as well. So two ways to live. And I think a lot of times we think that if we choose the righteous way to live, we have certain guarantees in life. And of course, this has been a subject of discussion here as we've made our way through Ecclesiastes before, that both the righteous and the wicked, they end up with the same result. We are going to die one day. And so he recaps that again here in this passage, that there is no guarantees if we pursue righteousness or if we pursue wickedness. That sometimes the righteous do perish or die early, and sometimes the wicked seem like they live a very long and maybe even easy or blessed life, right? So there are these two ways to live, but choosing righteousness, although that is the right path, that is what we should do, it doesn't come with some of the guarantees that we often associate with righteousness. Now, what should we do with that information? I think there's a tendency for that to cause us to fret or to be anxious or to it's a challenge to the way we think the world works, right? And so this is a good gift for us to have that pulled away and allow us to live an enjoyable life and one that would please the Lord. So part of this don't fretting or not fretting. First of all, you can't prolong your life with righteousness and wisdom. And sometimes we allow the storms in life, the troubles that we face, to really throw us for a loop, right? We think, well, I've done everything that I'm supposed to be doing, but life doesn't seem to be working out the way that I thought it would. And we allow that to really take us for a ride. And so the author of Ecclesiastes is cautioning against that. He's encouraging us to cast aside that thinking that we could prolong our life or that life is always going to be easy or blessed if we act righteously. But he's not telling us that then it's okay just to fall to the temptation to be wicked and foolish. He never advises being foolish. That is not an option for us, right? So don't fret in the sense of being thrown off when righteousness doesn't get us the result we think it will. And then also don't fret in the sense where, well, if the wicked seem to be prospering, I'm going to go that way, right? He's cautioning against that. And instead, I think he's calling us to take, and this might be kind of hard to understand. I'm still wrestling with this passage myself, but I believe he's telling us to instead take this sort of middle path. And so we see this in verse number 18 where he tells us to not withdraw your hand, right? Consider both of these truths, right? That sometimes the righteous perish and sometimes the wicked live a long life. He says, withdraw not thine hand in verse 18, and he says, come forth of them all, or kind of consider both of them, have one foot in either of these mindsets. And so if I could sum it up, what I would encourage you and encourage my own heart with today in light of this passage is, first of all, do what good you can today and be satisfied. There's probably always more righteousness that we could pursue, and we could fret about that. We could worry about that. But look at the opportunities that you have in front of you right now. What good can I apply myself to today? And let's be satisfied with that. Let's not wish and want and hope for more and more and more and more, right? We've seen that caution in Ecclesiastes. So look at what's in front of you today. Opportunities to help others, opportunities to live righteously, do what good is in front of you today, and be satisfied with that. And then I also think this passage is a great caution over trying to make some sort of bargain with God, right? We can't think that we can demand things from God just because we've behaved a certain way. The Lord is in control. He's going to do what he desires, and I need to be satisfied with that. I can't make some sort of bargain with God because I've pursued righteousness. God, you must do this, or you must do that. That's a very quick way to an anxious, unsatisfied life. And the author of Ecclesiastes, in his wisdom that he's assembled for us here in this passage, is cautioning against this kind of mindset of thinking that I'm owed something from God because I've done this or I've done that. So, again, to kind of sum it all up, hey, let's look at what good's in front of us today. Let's do that. Let's be satisfied with that. Let's stop wishing for this bigger and better and more type of life. And let's put our hand to what God has in front of us today. That's a much less frustrating life. And I think at the end of the day, we'll do more for the Lord with less burnout. I've got some discussion questions in the description for you to check out. Would love to hear some feedback from you on this passage as I continue to spend some time studying it, and looking forward to being back in Ecclesiastes on Sunday morning. We'll see you next time as we continue with our weekly Bible studies.